Hi, I'm Paul Warren,
And I'm Ryan Klein.
and this is another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies. Ryan, how are you doing now with your new life out there in Seattle?
It's great. I'm definitely in the most interesting environment or setup I've ever had. I'm hanging out about 100 feet from a market out in somewhere in Seattle, and I'm kind of hanging out on the curb and watching people walk by along with some cars. And this is really awkward, but hopefully it goes really well.
Well, now that you've left me alone here in Orlando, at least we still have our podcast, so that's cool.
I feel closer to you, even if we were recording in the same room. It's all good.
Well, you're here in spirit. Anyways, we have a great podcast today. Today we're going to be talking about Google My Business reviews, why they become more important, how to get Google My Business reviews, how to respond to them. Just kind of like set up the whole system, right? Because you know they're important and you know you have to get them, and this is how you're going to do it.
I believe that's a great idea. And then also we can kind of wrap that up once we go over those things. We'll talk about kind of the state of Google My Business and what the verification process is like nowadays and what we can look forward to in the upcoming months or not look forward to in all honesty.
Yeah.
So reviews. Okay, this is a great topic. I can't wait. Who wants to talk about why reviews are important, especially on Google?
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit while we're reporting, and then we're going to give you kind of a step-by-step process of how to like start getting reviews for your location and some software and things that you can use to make the process a whole lot easier.
Exactly.
Well, let's dive into like why they're important.
Sure.
Right? So I believe they absolutely are a ranking signal for the map pack and like local. I don't necessarily think that. I mean, you don't have to have all 5-star reviews. I actually think it looks weird to have that. I think if you start getting them really quickly, that looks weird, right? But, Google uses that as a signal of the quality of your business and how you're treating your customers. And they're also looking at the content and keywords that are in the reviews themselves, not your responses, but what's being left from the customer. And that can all play a part in the ranking signals in local.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. When I was doing this, and so I'm going to speak on this quite a bit because I actually have done quite a few webinars for Mark on My Market, specifically on 5-star reviews importance and how to generate them.
Hey,
we don't even talk.
Plug your business on your own time, buddy.
Oh, well, whatever. I kind of like preface it. I'm validating myself when I talk about this just a little bit. And then you do a ton of local, so actually we're totally qualified to talk about this at great length.
I'm a local expert, I'd say.
Yeah, see, there you go. So we don't even talk about the content or the keywords or the context of the reviews, and I absolutely agree. That is extremely important, and that's how people that don't even like categorize them as a certain let's say law firm, because we're talking about law firms, but like someone might be doing a lot of criminal defense, and they might be criminal defense, but they might show up in the 3-pack for family law because they get a couple of reviews that talk about family law. So absolutely.
Yeah. So what does that mean? It means that you got to ask your customers to be very specific, or you have to set up some kind of system where you automate a lot of what the review is, and they're just hitting like yes, and then it's like forward.
Oh, we were going into the coercion approach already.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll talk a little bit about that because actually it is a thing, right? Like think about if eBay does that really well. When you leave a review for a product, they autofill some information, right? So kind of looking at how you can facilitate doing some of that. So you're either going to ask for it, say, hey, can you please talk about leaving a review on the specific service that you got or the product or whatever, making sure there's keywords in there. And so, why don't we just delve into like how to ask for it first? Because
we're not there yet. I want to talk about the importance. I really want to ingrain it. I want to push it. I want people to be like, I have to. At the end of this podcast, people that don't have reviews, that have businesses or any sort of map hack stuff, I want them to be like, I have to get reviews. I want them to obsess about it and freak out if they don't have good reviews. Okay, that is my goal. So
go ahead.
So a couple other things. Of course, it's a part of the map pack, and people use Google more than anything by far. So there's a huge correlation with reviews. The quality of the reviews, like Paul said, 5 stars looks awkward, even though I have one of my clients has 110 5-star reviews, which is like a 5.0, but it's awesome. We do a lot of research on it. So, if it's a 4.8, 4.7, that's great. Actually, according to our research, through doing a bunch of surveys for about 250, 500 people, people will want you to have at least 20 reviews on average and at least a 3.8, which is surprisingly low on average. I wouldn't say 3.8 is appropriate, but I could say that getting away with like a 4.2 is like the base. That's my personal like opinion.
I would say 3.8 is like not a good.
No, you're in the threes, but consumers are consumers, so they're important. People year after year say more and more and more that they're referencing reviews. So even if they get to your website and everything looks great, most of the time, more than half of the time, they're still going to hop off your website, search your brand, look at your reviews on Google, Facebook, Yelp, elsewhere.
Let's be very clear that we're really specifically talking more about Google My Business reviews than anything else in this situation here.
We will be, especially just because there's so many reasons why it's important. The first of which is probably being in the map pack, and the correlation is higher than it's ever been. But there's plenty of other reasons. So we established you have to have reviews, unless you don't even know what your potential consumers. You can be losing consumers if you have too few reviews. You can be losing potential clients if you have too low of a rating. So it's
they might not even be clicking on you at all. Or maybe like, I don't want that, and that's just they've never interacted with you outside of just looking at it.
Right. I can't emphasize enough. Reviews is a priority. Stop what you're doing. Think about reviews. Okay. So let's talk about how to ask and the process actually generating them.
All right. So number one, you're a small business. You just ask after the service is provided. You physically have your staff, or you physically ask that person, which is totally a fine way to do this, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have to do this to any type of scale, even if, even being a small business, you might have to do this at scale, just depending on how many customers you have coming in. You're going to want to make the process a little easier. So I would suggest creating some sort of email campaign that asks customers for reviews after they're gone. In addition to asking them in person, I would do both of these things. Take as many opportunities as you can to ask them for reviews. I'm not gonna this isn't gonna talk about how to set up emails at all. So if you want to learn how to do that, this is not the podcast for you. This isn't don't listen to this podcast for that at all. Find someone else, because we don't really go into email marketing. But assuming you already have something that can send out emails and automate this, you want to be targeting people that are your customers and asking for reviews. And it's really, really easy to link to your web properties to have them leave a review through an email. Yeah,
and the reason, now you mentioned kind of email. The reason that this is definitely a part of SEO is because what we're talking about, the map hack, more and more of a reason that the reviews and social validation sort of is going to tie into visibility and in turn components to SEO. So this is 100% important for any SEO to completely consider everything about reviews. So about asking them, right? You have to keep it short and sweet. You're not going to write a whole story about, I hope your experience was great. It would mean the world to me. It's really important if I get a review. It's just pretty simple. You shouldn't write a whole story about why you deserve a review. It's more asking for their feedback. And then, one thing I saw was common I kind of related to the most is a company was kind of just businesses like ours thrive with the positive feedback that you can provide, or something like that, so they can kind of play on the emotions a little bit, how important it is.
Don't just straight up say leave a review. You have a little context around it.
Yeah. So then as far as the email itself, I know for a fact that just kind of sending out a block, so you send an email and it's just a block of text and then a couple hyperlinks, that doesn't work that well, because it kind of looks like crap and it's not really as easy to digest. So as far as the email.
Yeah, you're going to want to have some templates there.
Yeah. So without going to a third party, which we're going to talk about eventually, what I'd recommend is, it's pretty common nowadays for most companies to have some sort of newsletter or some sort of email platform, like a Constant Contact or a MailChimp. So that's actually a perfect tool that you can use to do this, because it's also going to have everything else you're looking for. If they open it or not, that's the biggest thing. if someone didn't open your email and you can track it via MailChimp, then you can email them again because they didn't open it. You can also know if people didn't click on anywhere to leave a link, or sorry, to leave a review. So, I mean, if you're using a MailChimp like a platform like that typically for your newsletter, it also has everything you're looking for this kind of campaign.
Again, we don't want to get too much into like email platforms. That's not what we're here to talk about. But
you just said that I wouldn't. I'm talking about, but it's important to get that away.
But one of the things you can do with a lot of that, especially if you have like a CRM, so some sort of customer relationship management software, is you can build logic into these things, and so you can see based on what you're collecting about that customer, like the type of service they got from you, the dates that they got it, so if you have different types of services that you provide, you can be really specific in the email and like use their name in it. So you can automate like all this whole process. It's not very manual and you're having to do it. So we're not going to tell you how to do that. We just know that you can do that if you're listening and you're like new to this world. You can kind of set all this stuff up. So that's like, if you're handling all this stuff, let's talk about maybe like text as well.
Yeah, SMS. I don't know as much about the SMS component, but before we go there, the only thing I want to emphasize, I'm not talking about email. I'm talking about any approach that you take whatsoever. The most important thing you can do is be consistent with follow-ups. Our typical email number that it takes for people to actually like open and actually leave a review isn't that until typically about the third email. So if you do it once, typically people don't leave a review. Second, maybe third is actually when it starts happening a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
I really want to drive that home real quick.
I'd also like to point out if you're using a text service, and there's a lot of services out there that'll do this for you. I'm not gonna like recommend any particular one because there's a lot of them out there that have strengths and weaknesses and like different price points, and so there's necessarily one that's better than the other. But you can basically send that out in like a text, and just very easily through the click of a link, those people can be right there to leave a review for you on like Google My Business or on Yelp. It makes the process like very, very, very easy. It can just be a part of like, we'll call it just like a campaign to get reviews, right? So think about it as like, don't just do one of these and leave the other ones out. Like you kind of want to have like a mix, right? Like a review marketing mix of like people asking in person, sending out emails, and then a follow-up maybe with a text, or you start with a text. It's sort of up to you to figure out the flow, but I would like do all of those things.
Have you had a success doing the SMS approach? Because we've
Definitely.
had tons of success just doing emails.
Yeah, I've had the most success doing it with text, honestly.
Interesting. That's cool to hear.
Yeah.
You heard it here for the first
there
time.
You go.
Maybe the last time even.
Probably not. So let's talk about third party review, because this is probably the easiest way to get going with this, and I would say one of the more popular ways is to do it like this.
Well, it's just because one of the biggest reasons is there are a lot of marketing tools out there. Of course, you have like analytics and research and a million other things. I don't want to go into every single freaking tool that you can use for SEO, but the third-party tools that help like facilitate the reviews are among the cheaper tools out there, and they do a lot. So let's talk about it.
Okay, go ahead.
So historically, there are a lot of review generation vendors out there. I've used a lot, probably between 6 and 8 over the years, and then I've had people that I'm familiar with use their own, and then altogether you have about 15 that are known. I'm not going to rattle them off, but the two I've had the most success with are, drum roll, Bird Eye and Gather Up.
Bird Eye and what?
Gather Up.
Gather Up. Okay.
Bird Eye and Gather Up.
Let's walk people through a little bit how these work.
Okay. They're both very similar as far as their functionality, but what it does is basically you sign up with them, you create a profile, which is going to include, your address and a little bit of background about your company. They're basically going to set up a company page for you that sometimes actually ranks pretty well and indexes well in Google, which is another there's a lot of value added stuff that they provide, but those are among them. And basically what they'll do is they'll create a template, and then it'll be based off of best practices already. So you're not going to have to design anything. They already have that down. And oftentimes it's actually been, according to them, allegedly approved by somebody at Google that, says that this is a standard for some degree of solicitation. And basically all you'll do is upload probably like a CSV with emails and names, and it will automatically start sending them emails periodically until hopefully they leave a review, and then it'll stop. And it pretty much just takes that completely off your shoulders, and you don't have to, follow your own calendar. You don't have to set up campaigns or drip or anything.
Do they provide like a variety of templates, like email templates?
Probably a very finite amount. So there's probably like one that has what's called pre-check sentiment, meaning there's like kind of two approaches you can take. The pre-check sentiment means it'll ask them initially, like your former client or current client or customer, how was your experience with us, and rate it 1 through 10. And then you kind of have a cutoff. So if they click 8, 9, or 10, it'll guide them along to leave a review. If it's 1 through 7, it'll kind of deter them because 1 through 7 is kind of an insufficient kind of experience. And they're more likely to leave, a 4, 3, 2, 1 star review. And then it'll kind of direct them to an area where they can provide direct feedback. So instead of guiding them along to leave it. Yeah. This has been popular for a very long time. This is one of the
very clear though. This is like a little bit of a black hat thing. Is like most websites like Google and Yelp, they don't want you to gate your reviews. Now it does happen, like obviously all the time.
Well, pre-check sentiment is like completely like a no-no, and I'm not sure how some people have said that they got Google's thumbs up anyway, because I'm pretty sure Google is actually looking to Yelp for how stringent they are with solicitation. So I thought that they were kind of going the Yelp route because Yelp is impossible. Most
Yelp
third-party vendors
don't ask ever.
Well, the thing about Yelp, I'm pretty sure, is they check the referral path of like when a review is coming in, and if they see that it was directed by anything that was created by like a Bird Eye or a Gather Up or something, that'll just like flag the whole thing.
So you can't even use it from Bird Eye.
No, they don't even list it. I think that they list it and it's grayed out, and they're like, "Why is this grayed out?" And then you can hover over it, and it's like because there's screwed.
Only reviews, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that thing with Yelp where they found out that like a dentist or a doctor or someone was paying for reviews, and then they found out, and then they posted on their Yelp page, this person pays for reviews? It's like insane. People hate Yelp. I've never talked to a lawyer that they hate him more than I do. So what it's doing simultaneously, which most people can't really do in their own emails or really figure out how to do it, is they're simultaneously trying to facilitate positive reviews while also, accounting for the possibility of a negative review and deterring it. So it's actually kind of twofold, and it's pretty sweet, actually. Yeah, that's how it works. So that's why you go to a third party. Among those reasons, also it comes from like kind of an unbiased third party. So instead of being like at the name of your business, and obviously comes off way more as the solicitation, it comes from like at Bird Eye, and it's like, oh, we're Bird Eye, we're a third party, neutral party. We're just curious about your experience, and that makes a big difference, honestly.
Yeah, and so while the most important one to focus on is your Google My Business, because it has a direct correlation to your map pack rankings, right? Don't forget about some of the other places out there to have reviews. I mean, people go to Facebook now. They go there and they check out reviews on your business. People drive revenue through Facebook. Make sure you have like your eye on your Better Business Bureau profile if you have one. Be abreast of all the stuff out there that could have a review with your name on it. And always, try and mix the different sites into your campaign. Honestly, it's going to help your overall SEO if you're like having more interactions with sites that are actual citations for your business listings, right? So if you have some more action going on there, it's going to make everything go up.
Yeah. And then as far as like the links, I mean, you can kind of switch them around. If it's a third party, it's easy to switch them around. If you do it yourself, make sure you kind of spread the wealth. That's why you drip these campaigns a lot. When you start doing it, I don't want to talk about email a lot, but all this stuff is very important. People get like really gung ho, and they're like, oh man, I'm gonna email my whole database at once, like 4,000 people, and then they just do it all at once, all in one place, and then they convert I don't know, 10%. And then you start getting hundreds of reviews in one place. And then especially if it's Google, it doesn't matter how legitimate the reviews are or they're all separate IPs. I guarantee it. If you send them all to a Google listing and it starts getting 50 reviews a day, they're all going to get taken down because Google's just going to be like, it's just not real. So you have to drip it and you have to be patient.
Don't go nuts. Yeah. Like what you don't want is like a whole bunch happening at one time. So.
Yeah. And then you spread around. I mean, also, if you're a doctor, you got your ZocDoc, so don't forget about that. If you're a construction contractor or something along those lines, you have home advisors, Angie's List. So don't forget to kind of spread it around. And then also if you have multiple locations. So if you have 5 offices, what's great about doing a campaign like that is they're going to click, if you do it right, they're going to click on it and they're not going to even know or care what location it is. They're just going to see your name and then they're going to fill it out and then they're going to get reviews spread around different locations. So be mindful of that as well.
Yeah. And also we want to clarify that what we're discussing has nothing to do with reviews that you might have on your own website that you've collected yourself. So sometimes, when you Google business name or just you see a business in the SERP results and they have that star rating underneath their name in the SERPs, right? It looks great because they have like maybe 4.5 stars, whatever it is. So those are actually reviews that they have collected themselves and they've displayed on their website, and through appropriate schema markup, they're able to show that in the SERPs next to their business name. So that works completely differently. Maybe one day we'll do just a schema episode. Have you actually already done a schema episode?
No, you wanted to do just a schema episode, and I said I couldn't really think of anything that would fill 30 or 40 minutes unless we did research at a time. I couldn't do it like off the cuff or anything.
Yeah, I know that's asking a lot. Anyways,
but I can talk about this. Like I said, I've done this webinar like 6 or 7 times. It's really, really good. I do it with my account manager, Joanna. That's why I'm rounding off specific stats this time.
Yeah, so we will do an episode on how to do that and actually appropriate local SEO schema that you should have on your site. That sounds like a really good topic for next episode, actually.
All right, well, I'll just do a little bit of research and I'll make sure that I'm situated somewhere better than the curb outside of a market. Because this is so awkward. So, reviews. I'm trying to do a couple final thouts here.
We're going to talk a little bit about the direction that Google My Business is going.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to talk about. I'm just trying to think if there are any like parting notes about reviews. I mean, obviously we already emphasized how important it is. People, I think that one of the statistics was people. Let's say there's 2 businesses and a consumer or potential client likes both of them, but one has much better reviews than the other person. The average person is 80% more likely to go with the one that has better reviews. 80%. That's insane.
So just think about that statistically and then ask yourself, should you focus on reviews or not? And if the answer is yes, you should probably close down your business.
Yeah, I mean, if over 50% of people validate a business by their reviews, and then 80% will pick one over another based off reviews, what is that, like a 40% chance if you combine the two of some number that I can't think of off the top of my head of happening? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay. Let's talk about Google My Business. You're like, what are you trying to like string together?
Let's talk a little bit about the future of Google My Business, where it's at right now. So one of the things that I like to do is sort of see where GMB is going to go in the future. And the very best way to do that, just go ahead and Google plumber in San Francisco, and you will get an idea of what local SEO will look like, because for some reason they always test there. I think we've talked about this in the past, but it's just a really good way to have a peek through the looking glass of what local SEO is going to do. I foresee in the future that there's going to be more PLAs, so paid local ads, across the board. It's going to go to, there's just going to be an additional thing that you're going to have to pay for. And I can't imagine Google My Business living as a standalone software outside like how it is now, because there's just too many things that it needs to be rolled into. Like there's a lot of it that needs to be rolled into like Google Ads. And honestly, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to have a better integration with Google Analytics and all that stuff with your site, right? So right now it's a giant pain to be able to track that stuff. It's also a super giant pain to look up local map pack keyword rankings, keep track of those things, or even like discover map pack rankings. All of it's a giant pain. So I think there will be something in the future that either brings those things together, but I think like GMB as we know it will be diminished, and there'll be a different platform.
Yeah, and I think that, so you want to talk about how much more difficult it's been to verify locations really in extremely recent history, about like how it was years and years and years of just like postcards and phone verification, and like there's
now you can auto
else.
verify. You can like auto verify things if you have it all set up correctly. So like where I work now, we have hundreds of locations. So
I mean, like, yeah, if account that's successfully and legitimately set up hundreds of locations, I can't imagine why you'd get resistance for new locations.
Yeah, we don't have to deal with the old postcard trick. Which
why don't you just open up a bunch of personal injury clinics? Like, it's a side gig, and now you can open.
I wouldn't be the first.
Real quick.
I wouldn't be the first.
Yeah, I can't say that counts pretty valuable, but yeah, it's the first time in a long time I'm setting up satellite offices for people, and then in the past year was kind of the first time you got a whiff of signage, and it's like, yeah, we just need a little bit more of verification. Can you take a picture of like the lobby with the name? And they're just like, whoa, where'd that come from? And now you're talking about video. So we talked about that, right? Video verification? That's insane.
Let's talk about it for our podcast listeners.
Yeah.
We got to have, so what people don't understand or know, right, for years, people wanted more locations to show the maps. And so the only way to do that is to have more verified businesses in Google Maps. And so you would go to virtual offices, anywhere that you could receive mail and verify that your business location was there, right? So people were opening business locations all over the cities, different places, right? So they could get more leads when people search those terms and they're near it. So Google has cracked down on virtual office locations a lot over the past year. And one of the ways they've done that is they've introduced the Google, the local guides program. So I'm actually a member of the local guides. And what you do, it's like a point system, but you actually manually review, a human being reviews your listing information, and depending on the type of review of things is like they give you like points, right? So it could be just like, does it look like this is the actual location for this business? And they'll give you the street view, and if it's just like a house in a neighborhood, you'd be like, no, it's not. Right? Mm-hmm. And like, or they'll have you check the data on like your Google My Business listing page. So like, is this the actual URL for this listing? Is this the actual phone number for this listing? So they make you kind of go to the actual site and like look that stuff up. So it's not just an algorithm doing this anymore, making these checks. They have human beings with eyes on it. So it's going to be a lot harder to get away with these things in the future.
Yeah, I think that it's probably a combination. I bet that there's an algorithm that just does a sweep over these millions of locations, red flags a bunch, then you get the people swooping in and manually checking stuff. Because it was the first time I had people calling my client with like 6 locations and then seeing what's going on and checking like the location is legitimate and different phone numbers. It's the first time I had video. And then did I tell you really recently, one place wanted to verify by either a utilities bill or a business license. And I was just like, this is out of control. What's that?
Google My Business asked for that?
Google My Business asked for a business license or a utilities bill to verify. And I was like, no way.
I've never even heard of that.
The first time it was about 3 or 4 weeks. No, it was about 4 to 6 weeks ago, because it was a legitimate office, but they like operate out of it like here and there, and they like share it with, someone else similar. Mm-hmm. But it's been there for like 7 years, maybe more, probably like 8 or 9, forever. Okay. And I think what happened was it got flagged by their competition just because competition's being competition. And I'm sure if you make up 10 or 15 fake Google accounts and you say that something's spam, it's going to get flagged for spam and you're going to screw people out or whatever. Don't get too negative SEO on that. But, so it got flagged, but I think it was also there for so long that they're like, well, we're going to take it down, but they can verify it instead of just outright just removing it. And then when I hit them up like 3 times, I'm like, you guys are not responding to me. And on the 3rd time they go, okay, give us a business license. I said, what are you talking about? So it's getting crazy. It's getting crazy out there.
Very crazy. So, it's going to get more difficult if you're trying to game the system is what we're trying to tell you.
Pretty much. And I think that it might be the reason I think that this crackdown and GMB paid features kind of happening at the same time isn't random. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that there's like a huge Google initiative to be like, okay, we have to just really like crack down on GMB locations, because when we roll out paid features for GMB, we want to make sure that people aren't like abusing it with fake locations. That's what I think.
Yeah, very good points, Ryan. Okay.
I've never said that before. Oh my gosh, this is a big moment for me.
Did it?
So yeah, that's kind of our take on reviews in GMB and how they kind of work together and what to expect. I guess that the too long didn't listen would be that reviews are more important than ever, but also getting reviews on listings. Those listings are more legitimate than ever as well.
Yes. So have a legitimate listing and get legitimate reviews, and you can't go wrong.
Mm-hmm. The map pack gets an insanely high click through. I've done heat map surveys quite a bit, and I see where people click for different results. And it's pretty much, if you have your ads at the top 4 and then you have 3 in the map pack, and then you start getting into organic, the maps is marginally more than everything.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate all of our listeners. Be sure to like or subscribe, depending on what you're listening on. Hopefully, we're going to be in iHeartRadio here pretty soon. So if you listen to podcasts on there and you're listening to us, we made it. We're in there. It's great.
What we should do? We should do a live podcast tour of all the cities we said are the best cities in the United States for SEO.
Where is this budget coming from? I'm not even going to publish.
It's going to be sponsored.
Yeah, by who are you going to sponsor me?
Google. Google's going to sponsor it.
That's wonderful.
Because we don't talk about exploiting any aspects of Google ever.
Yeah. Well, and if you want to be on the podcast or you have any questions that you'd like answered on the air, please hit us up at seosdeadandotherlies@gmail.com. Or you can hit us up on Facebook or on our YouTube. We actually respond really quickly to comments on there. We check it daily. So feel free to hit us up.
Great. And then one last thing, Paul's really excited about the big 2K downloads right around the corner. And I think that after you're going to be like, hey, dude, after this is done, can you like go home immediately and edit it and send it back? Because I want to post it right away because I want to hit 2,000 by the end of this week.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to do that.
I can do that. Don't worry about it, buddy.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. And once again, I'm Paul Warren.
And I'm Ryan Klein.
And this has been another episode of SEO's Dead and Other Lies.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye.